Good afternoon to our EcoCast podcast listeners. Welcome to our third episode in the series. We are very delighted and honored to have Professor Anurag Kandya with us, who will be broadly speaking on the topic of air pollution. Dr. Kandya is currently the coordinator, Office of the Environmental Engineering, and working as an associate professor at the Department of Civil Engineering, the School of Technology, Pandit Deendayal Energy University, Gandhinagar, India. He is also leading university's team as a Schedule 1 auditor to Gujarat Pollution Control Board in Gandhinagar. He has completed his PhD in the field of urban microclimate from IIT Delhi in 2015, MTech in Environmental Engineering and Management from IIT Delhi in 2006, and Bachelor's of Engineering in Civil Engineering field from LD College of Engineering, Ahmedabad, 1999. He has a consolidated experience of over 24 years of teaching and research and have worked with various institutes like IIT Delhi, ISRO Ahmedabad, Indus University Ahmedabad, CEPT Ahmedabad, to name a few. He has also authored a book titled Elements of Civil Engineering, which is now used as a textbook in many engineering colleges of India. Also, he has published a couple of more books and also a design patent for roadside green shelter using bamboo, and he has over 20 research papers in international journals, more than 50 research papers in international and national conferences. His current research work is in the area of urban environment, and he is here with us today to speak broadly on the topic of air pollution. All right, so first of all, Dr. Kandya, welcome to our EcoCast podcast session. It's an absolute honor to host you.
It is a great delight for me as well that I am speaking to one of the learned people of the country, talking to IIT Jammu, and really excited to share my views on the air, as what I say, air we share. So extremely happy, and we'll discuss more on different issues of air quality.
Right, Dr. Kandya, air we share. Yeah, that's such a provoking thought. So, Dr. Kandya, I would like to start with a fact on air pollution, actually, which is like a recent fact that I have came across, that it could be termed as the greatest environmental threat and accounts for nearly 7 million premature deaths every year. If that's right, maybe you can correct this fact. And also, what information I have on the current state situation is that 99% of the global population are living in a place where WHO's strictest air quality pollution guideline were not compliant. And we can really imagine the scenario getting worse with times to come. Hopefully not. But Dr. Kandya, now that you have worked so much on air pollution and studying its wider impact, including the indoor air pollution also, and you have such a good basics and advanced understanding of this topic, you have kind of, the knowledge which we all would like to, have from you today. So what do you think where the world is heading towards, and what's your thinking on the overall situation of the indoor as well as the outdoor air quality that we live in?
You're absolutely right that as what you mentioned, that more than 7 million people, they had met with fatalities, and that is absolutely correct. In fact, you're very right saying that 99% of the world's population is living in places where the WHO air quality standards levels are not met. If I go more focused on the statistics, 6.7 million premature deaths are annually witnessed just because of air pollution. Now, the moment the word air pollution comes, mostly we talk about outdoor air pollution. And here I would like to bring some light that there is a very important focus which we now need to put forward on indoor air pollution. Because 80% of the time, we are inside our closed environment. So there is a difference between open environment and closed environment. And because we are now having a very high residence time inside our rooms, we have to focus typically what is the type of air which we are breathing in. So in countries like in developing countries, including India, like if I go to the rural places, now normally our perception is that the quality of air in the rural places is good. I agree that the quality of air is good in the rural places when you talk about ambient condition. With the moment you peep inside their houses, in the time where they are using their chulhas for cooking food, and because of the improper combustion, the type of carbon monoxide and the particulate matter concentration, that is rising, that is really, really very scary. So rural places are also having, it's something like, if you talk about a city, you will have the outdoor environment little more scary. The moment you go to a village, you will have the indoor environment sometimes becoming very, very scary. So every place is coming with different type of complexity and different type of strategies to be actually implemented for improving the air quality. Finally, this overall objective is that we need to talk about the improvement in the health of the people. If I talk about the, at a global level, there are studies which point out that 2.3 years per person, like you talk about one person, 2.3 years, he is shortening his lifespan just because of the bad air quality. Now, this is at a global level. If I just talk about the South Asia, then this number becomes little more bigger. If I just talk about India, then it is around 6 to 7 years. There is a shortening of the lifespan on an average. This is the scary thing which now we need to actually register, that how do we solve this? Now, we will have a lot of facts and figures. If you go to the ministry's website, if you see the Central Pollution Control Board, we will find that there are many cities which are now becoming non-attainment cities. Initially there were 102, then there are 122, and now if you see the status, there are 133 non-attainment cities in India. Now, if you just see the population of these 133 cities, that number becomes a very important, a big fraction of the total population of our country. So keeping that in mind, definitely, there is no second opinion. We have to talk about some type of development which is really inclusive. I don't say that development should not be there, but it should not be at the cost of the health of the people. If there is a shortening of the lifespan of the people, then definitely the developmental model needs to be questioned.
Thank you, Dr. Kandya, for setting up the stage and giving such an amazing introduction. Since we are talking about air pollution and air quality, I would like to know your views and experiences about indoor air quality in different workspaces. Let's say about offices, classrooms, labs, gyms, where there is a gathering. And what are the potential hazards which are overlooked at these places, and common practices which can be, practiced or avoided to overcome these hazards?
Yeah, it's a very, very relevant question. As I said earlier, that we really need to focus on indoor air quality. The first thing, have we checked our indoor air quality? How many people are really aware of what is the type of air quality we are breathing in? As a guideline, normally we say that the CO2 levels, if you talk about the urban settings, the CO2 levels should not be more than 1000 ppm, or typically 400 to 500 ppm above the outside concentration. Suppose the concentration in the ambient setup is around 500 ppm, then inside should not be more than 1000 ppm or 1100 ppm. So have we checked? I have seen places where this concentration is more than 2000 ppm. This is the typical concentration where I'm subjected to for around 6 to 7 hours a day. So we really need to see whether there is adequacy in our ventilation. Normally, when you're going for your air conditioning setup, now India being a typical hot and dry country, overall, like if you talk about Gujarat, Delhi, or if you go to Madhya Pradesh, we will find that typical that it's a hot climate. So we normally focus on temperature, and little do we realize that we are not giving any focus on carbon dioxide in the first place. Of course, there are other gases which we need to focus, but CO2 becomes one of the important gases which we need to actually address. So I would really put forward that, are we checking the CO2 levels? That is first. And then quickly we can then figure out that whether there is adequacy in the ventilation in my respective rooms. Are we having some can reduce our CO2 in the morning time? If I actually put forward that I'm focusing the workplaces, typically from morning 9 to evening 6 or evening 7. So in that places, are we having indoor plants which can really, reduce my CO2 peaks which I would be having? So these are questions which we need to really look into.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insights about the ambient air quality in indoor environments. Sir, in relation to the same, in addition to carbon dioxide, there could be more air pollutants that are being discharged into the atmosphere, especially in urban areas. What are these potential air pollutants? Along with this, if we focus on urban planning, could it help to remediate or reduce the effects of these air pollutants that could be in some way of an emerging nature? Also, sir, you mentioned about the growth that is happening in urban areas and all. So is it a possibility that with the kind of growth that India is undergoing, a balance can be struck between the economic growth and the air quality improvement?
Yeah, the series of questions are really rightly put up. If we just talk about the initial question which you asked, what are the most harmful air pollutants in the urban setup? We start with PM 2.5, then we have particulate matter 10, NOx, SOx, now we have ozone, carbon monoxide, ammonia, then we have heavy metals like arsenic, nickel, lead. If you go back to the National Ambient Air Quality Standards, we have these 12 pollutants listed, including the volatile organic carbon like we have benzene, benzopyrene. So these are all series of pollutants, and in fact, there are emerging pollutants also. So we have this list which typically goes in as per to the standards, and we have more to actually measure because we are growing, our type of emissions are growing, and then there are primary reaction, secondary, tertiary. So we have different type of pollutants generated as these series of the reactions are taking place. Definitely, urban planning can typically play a very important role in reducing the impacts of the air pollution. Now, if we go back to the fundamental theory of air pollution, we have three things in consideration. One is the source, second is the pathway, and third is the receptor. So at any level, if I'm having some alteration, I would be finally having the reduction in the impact of the air pollution. So when it comes down to urban planning, I would use a word called NBS, nature-based solution. Now, we need to really look into that how these nature-based solutions can actually alter my pathway in terms of the pollutant dispersion. Just as an example, like if I'm increasing my green cover, definitely I'm giving more surface area for the particulate matter to settle. If this surface area is not there, then definitely the particulate matter would be in suspension, and in all likelihood, it will enter my nose. So, this is a simple thing which we can actually go for and try to increase the surface area. And that is why there is a strong focus which is actually outlined that we should be having an increase in the green cover. So going back to the type of typical solutions and trying to strike a balance between development and air pollution, like when we are going for a built-up area, we need to correspondingly figure out and increase the green cover area also. And that is something, if you are not having spaces, as what we say, the XY plane is very limited, we have to innovatively think and talk about the Z. That is the height. That is, you talk about the walls. Are the walls effectively utilized and turned into a green space? Now, this might be, putting as a big question on the entire civil engineering community, that have we developed enough and that we are able to turn these walls of the buildings to something like a green wall? To my experience, I have not seen a very strong green wall across my city. I hail from Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar, but I have not seen green walls. Now, if I have not seen green walls in Ahmedabad, if I have not seen green walls very popularly in Delhi, then the question becomes that why the green walls are not there? So if there are problems, then definitely it has to be taken up at all fronts. And we need to figure out that can we translate these walls, these concrete-based walls into a green wall? If these green walls can be seen very nicely in Dublin and other parts of Europe, then what stops us to have green walls in our country? If we say that the type of plants which can grow in this are very difficult to identify, but then if they are difficult to identify, then we have to overcome this difficulty and come up with that solution. So just because this problem was not there some 30 years ago, we might have not given a focus on that. But now, actually, we don't have the space for urban greenery in the XY plane. Definitely now we have to look into the Z. So this becomes a very important thing for us to understand. Other type of things like, have we given importance to small water bodies? Now the time has come that we need to focus, because if I need to talk about nature-based solution, I need to talk about green walls, I need to talk about small water bodies. Now, these small water bodies, and maybe if I refer to the National Clean Air Program and the 42 points in which they have mentioned the mitigation strategies, they are mentioning something like a fountain. Like there has to be a fountain installed on the traffic junctions so that they control the particulate matter. Now, if these fountains are to be installed on traffic junctions, I would say that they can be, worked out at many places. And using solar energy, I would like to, go for something like creating a fountain and just trying to diffuse some water vapor in the system so that it interfaces with the particulate matter and makes it heavy, providing some scrubbing action. And so that the particulate matter which is there in suspension, that actually, flushes out and the air becomes cleaner. There can be innovative methods of how do you operate the pump and how do you operate that respective fountain and how do you create that energy. But finally, if I'm, putting some water in the system, definitely my particulate matter concentration would be reduced. And it is not that one fountain in the city can work. There has to be series of fountains, and that is why we say that the city has to be becoming more water sensitive if it has to address the various type of adversities of the climate. So, things like increasing the blue cover of the city. If I just put a bigger question, the moment we talk about global warming and we say that what are the implications, most of us would say that, because of the global warming, the glaciers will be melting, and because of the melting of the glaciers, you will have the increase in the sea level. But nobody says that we are making our surfaces of the cities impervious, and we are not allowing the groundwater to be, recharged, and all the water is actually flushing into the sea. So it is something like this. So I would focus that nature-based solutions, if they're strengthened, definitely we can actually have a significant reduction in the air pollutants. So particulate matter is of immediate concern, and that is, if you see the NCAP, PM 2.5 is the most important point. There are many more strategies, like I would say that I do see a lot of biomass being burnt. Now, why the biomass is being burnt across the places? When I stroll through a road, I see that sweepers are collecting all the leaves, putting it in one place, and then just putting them on fire. And then the biomass is getting translated into ashes, and a huge quantum of air pollution is getting generated. Now, this is one of the important sources which we need to actually see. So, be it the biomass, be it the type of sweeping which we are doing at the roads, Then are we having the roadside plantation? Are we making our city more water sensitive? Now, when we put all these questions and just put it in a quantitative perspective, we will find that more than 50% of the pollution problem which we are having, they will have the roots in these causes. So that is what we need to see, that at a discrete level, if we try to reduce on these sources, definitely we will have a lot of improvement in the air quality. And this actually cannot be taken at an individual level. There has to be a collective effort. If we all put that focus that we will not allow that burning to happen, we'll make sure that we are growing trees. My place, my neighborhood, little more water sensitive. I'm trying to figure out that can we do some installation and put a water fountain. Now these are the small things. If I actually evaluate, maybe one mitigation strategy might be reducing the air pollution concentration by around 1%. 5 mitigation strategies would be reducing around 5 to 7 to 8%. Now that 8% reduction would actually be getting a very important thing in perspective of health. Because see, our body is also having something like a resistance, that how much we can fight. So if I'm able to fight X, and if I'm generating X, then I am actually going on a healthier side. But the issue is that I'm able to fight X, but what I'm actually generating in terms of pollution is 1.5x. So every time I'm a net accumulator of the air pollution, my self-cleansing concept, that is not getting actually addressed. So this is what I would suggest, that small measures at my neighborhood level would really make a lot of impact in terms of improving the air quality.
Thank you so much, Professor Kandya, for the valuable insights on air quality in outdoor ambient environment and indoor environment as well. Sir, as you just mentioned, the exposure to PM 2.5 is the most critical one. I would like to know how other type of pollutant that warrant in our attention as of now in both outdoor environment and indoor setting. And moreover, it would be intriguing to explore how variables such as weather pattern and indoor ventilation impact as PM 2.5, and what measures can be implemented to mitigate these risks, fostering a cleaner, healthier environment.
A very, very important question which you have put. What type of more pollutants they warrant our attention? So as I said in my earlier description, like we have PM 2.5, then comes PM 10, NOx and SOx. Now, NOx is again a very important pollutant because it is linked with a type of combustion process and the respective temperature. So the moment we are crossing a threshold of a temperature, the nitrogen reacts with oxygen, then there is a formation of NOx. If we are having fossil fuels and which are bound to have sulfur, so sulfur-based fossil fuels, you see coal, you see petrol, diesel, so on and so forth. So if these are all having sulfur, then if they are used heavily, then you will have a huge generation of sulfur dioxide. Now, sulfur dioxide itself is a primary pollutant. It interfaces with water, it leads to H2SO4, and then if it comes down, it is actually an acid rain. And then again, series of other type of reactions are also there. So these are all pollutants. Now, if I see in terms of emerging pollutants, for example, a pollutant which was not there some 30-40 years ago, I would say ozone. Ozone is again a very tricky pollutant because it is a secondary pollutant. So if we are able to control the primary pollutants, if we are able to control those conditions, then I would say that the problem of ozone would not occur. So if we are able to control NOx, then ozone generation would automatically be controlled. So ozone is a pollutant which should be requiring. When we go down to the rural settings, carbon monoxide, I would say, is one of the very important pollutants. Of course, PM10 and PM2.5 are there, But carbon monoxide, the way carbon monoxide would be impacting the human health, it is really disastrous. So that really warrants our attention. Now, that is typically, we are not seeing urban areas in urban settings where we are having a better type of fuel combustion. But in rural areas, definitely it is important. And that is why, if you see, many of the clean development carbon credit projects, they are linked with what people are trying to do is they're trying to identify the people who are using substandard or some type of chulhas which are generating lot of smoke. So they're trying to replace them and giving them good quality chula, and then trying to compute what is the typical reduction, and such projects are getting qualified for carbon credits. And this actually is leading to a lot of wealth generation also. So point is that these are all pollutants like PM10, 2.5, carbon monoxide, ozone, heavy metals like lead, then arsenic, nickel. They really warrant our attention. Now, you also mentioned a word called weather. Now, I would say weather plays a very important role in the type of air quality we are breathing in. You typically compare summer and winter. You will find the air quality in winter much bad, inferior than to that of summer. It is just because in the summer season, by the virtue of the temperature, we have a higher mixing. If you just see the planetary boundary layer, or I should use the word the mixing height is higher in the case of a summer season than to that of a winter season. So just because of the temperature itself, we are having the changes in the air quality concentration, emission remaining the same. So if the people are, they are having that awareness that what time they should be going for deep breathing. Now, if I just talk about a winter season, and if they are going on a roadside where, lot of vehicles had traversed in the previous night, and in the morning time, they are going there on the roadside before the sun has risen, and then going for a deep breathing, I must say that they are actually going for an injurious condition. Because that type of air, if it is really penetrating deep inside your body, it would have much, much, much bad effect than that what you're trying to gain by doing a morning exercise. So weather patterns really have a very strong impact. We should be careful that where are we going for exercise. We should be careful that what time are we doing the exercise. In fact, we should also be trying to see that the location which you're trying to go for your exercise, that should be really checked. For example, if you can do your exercise on the 10th floor, on the terrace, rather than doing on the roadside. Because as you go up, the air quality improves just by the virtue of the increase in the wind. That would really help. These are all small things. You choose the location where you are going for your exercise, you choose the time of your exercise, like that. And why I'm emphasizing the exercise word? Because it is this particular slot which is leading for deep breathing rather than the normal breathing actually what you are doing for. So these are all small things. Of course, this really need to be put forward to the public in a very lucid manner, so that a common man can understand it well and then can take proper actions, proper precautions. All this will help in improving their health.
Dr. Kandya, you spoke about how concentration of gases such as carbon dioxide accumulate in a closed space. Now my question is that there has been a number of cases recently in which people are dying in closed spaces such as concerts where there are crowds such as gyms. And if I try to be more contextual to Gujarat, there were deaths reported during Garba. So do you think that this can be somehow linked with air pollution or air quality or the air pollution at that moment?
The deaths which we have seen in gyms, definitely one needs to check that what was the air quality, because I do have a doubt because many people, for example, 40 people inside a gym, and we are really not aware of what type of ventilation. Now, just for example, if we see the ventilation rate, it should be around 8.5 liters per second per person. Something like, you design, or somebody needs to check what is the air changes per hour. So are the people who are going for, designing the gyms and other things, are they checking them? Now, this can be one reason. So the deaths which we are seeing in the gyms, definitely, if not air quality is the sole reason, definitely it would be playing some important role in such type of deaths. When I talk about Garba, there I may not be in a position to comment it better, because the Garbas which we see, suddenly people from a sedentary lifestyle, they will go for some 8-hour stretch and they'll keep dancing, and that is a sudden change which people are witnessing, and maybe they're not used to such type of stretches. So that might be leading to some collapses which we have seen in the recent past. But Garbas are happening outdoor, so I really have to check whether air quality could be the reason. I'm unable to comment on that. But definitely for gyms, I would say that we need to really have a check on the quality of air which people are breathing. Because the delta T which we are having for the air pollution to impact on the human life, especially when it talks about the CO levels. Of course, in gyms, when you talk about it, has to be CO2 level. But definitely, maybe if the CO2 levels are really exceedingly very high, 5,000 ppm, 8,000 ppm, 10,000 ppm, then people who are a little more sensitive might have a bad thing and they go for a collapse.
Wow, Professor Kandya, it was really great discussion, I would say. We discussed a lot about, the air pollution, both the indoor air quality as well as the outdoor air quality, the impacts, the situation, the problems, the solution that we can offer, both at the urban level as well as the rural level. We discussed about the indoor air pollution more, where we, given the fact to the audiences that the people need to be more aware about the indoor CO2 levels, which should not be more than typically, I think you said 400 to 500 ppm than the ambient CO2 level. And the type of practice we can follow, such as, the kind of plants we can keep around inside our home to further reduce the impact of bad indoor air quality, which needs further research, of course. And throwing some more light on, indoor air quality, you also discussed about the significance of the air changes per hour, which is also very essential for a proper ventilation. You also talked about, in the earlier discussion, that the water pollution, like water pollution, it is also quite important to, understand the air sample as well, which may comprise a series of emerging contaminants, similarly to, water pollution. And, that also needs to be further explored for the betterment of the, understanding the air quality. And we also discussed about the nature-based solution, including green cover, where you highlighted the importance of, kind of a habitat, which is has to be very coherent with the infrastructure development. And the green world topic is something that is quite interesting, Dr. Kandya. I will explore about it more, and I'm sure our audiences will also explore about it, which is and may be prioritized in many nations, especially the developed countries or the developing countries as well, where a solution framing policy in the infrastructure sector could be further, renounced. You also thrown impact on the small water bodies, which are also very important for mitigating the higher levels of particulate matter, the regime that they follow, and the kind of practice we can do around these small water bodies. You also included the use of advanced technology of the solar energy to operate a series of water fountains. For example, a sustainable, technology, I would say, which really needs a greater attention where urban development has been planned, right? Also, I think the burning of biomass, majorly the agro biomass, has been pointed, where a huge quantum of air pollution is being generated, which needs serious addressal, of course. And we have seen in New Delhi how the nearby provinces, the things are affecting the New Delhi's, especially when the agro biomass is being burned nearby. We need to think about curbing such bad practices, of course, where a collective effort, what you said, is that what is important, and not a discrete or individualistic approach, which is what we call a holistic approach, that we must make a collective effort to address any challenges in our society. Also, the threshold of air pollution, which is kind of pointed out as a more cumulative, in terms of the quality one is exposed to, and hence the impact goes hand in hand, right? We talked about the primary and secondary air pollutant also, whereby controlling the conditions that is responsible to their generation, and one can control the production of NOx and SOx and emerging air pollutants. A better fuel combustion technology and other recent practices that we have kind of accepted, such as involving carbon credit projects and in identifying less smoke cooking fuels, which could be promoted for a better air quality around. We also discussed on the effect of air pollution related to the climate changes, where seasonal conditions are also quite critical to understand. Dr. Kandya, it was pleasure to have such in-depth analysis and thorough go through about the air pollution, and I'm sure the audiences would like to further interact with you. So would you mind if we kind of also present your email ID or somewhere to further interact with you in case they need, on our Spotify and Amazon Music links? Would it be fine with you?
Definitely. I mean, I would be so happy. Please share my email ID, which is akandya@gmail.com. And I would be so happy to have the feedbacks and, in fact, more importantly, the suggestions which come from the people across, that what type of challenges which they are facing and what are the typical solutions which can be outlined and put forward. Because I'm very disturbed by the very fact that when I talk about India, I get a number that 6 to 7 years are shortened from the average lifespan of an individual. So this number really, really disturbs me a lot. If you talk about a global studies put forward that it is 2.3 years. I mean, numbers can be challenged. I don't stick to that number. But the very fact that the lifespan is getting shortened, be it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years, but the lifespan is getting shorter. There is a lot of mortality which we are finding, especially in the kids. So there are a series of studies which has been done by various IITs put together, IIT Delhi taking the lead. I would say that, yes, somewhere down the line, many measures have to be taken. So people responses, type of solutions which they foresee, which are implementable, which are cost effective, all this put together, definitely we can see a better India, stronger Bharat under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister. So we really need to work hard. All researchers need to really put forward. I would, coming down to the responsibility on the researchers like us, we really need to work very hard integrating a lot of satellite data and ground-based observations and trying to go for stronger studies in simulations and modeling so that we are able to generate those air quality map, giving those maps in the media, stating that, see, this is how the air pollution is and this is how you need to take some precautionary measures. So those type of early warning systems, not only for only Delhi. I mean, we just see that early warning system is there in Delhi, which is yet to be, translated to common people. But this has to be there for all the non-attainment cities and in fact all the cities. Right. So there are many things. So do share my email ID and lovely talking to you and to the entire team, and definitely we look forward connecting with IIT Jammu and wanting to work more with you in this particular domain.
Likewise, Dr. Kandya, I mean, when you talked about this human health, I was teaching the other day to the students, the topic was air pollution. And one thing that, I would like to, I know the session is almost coming to an end, but I'd like to end with one question to you on this air pollution, which is specifically related to the pregnant women. And we have seen the impact of PM 2.5 on their mental stress, as well as the preterm delivery that is kind of documented in most of the developed countries already. So that's quite challenging also to understand the level of impact that we are heading towards, and the origin of all these pollutants of course needs to be understand a lot better, but the impacts on health is also something that I think we should be cautious about and aware. And do you have any suggestions, Dr. Kandya, on how to really deal with particulate matters impact, especially what our women are going through?
Yeah, I mean, you very rightly said that. We have seen studies like the various medical research papers have outlined that air pollution has impacted the pregnant women a lot. And we are seeing a very specific type of mortality in the 1 month, 2 month, 3 month babies. So, yes. But when it comes down to solutions, it's like the air we breathe in, like it's all across. So the type of air which I breathe and a pregnant woman is breathing in. So when it comes down to precaution, I mean, then we have to see that I take my personal care and I try avoiding to those polluted areas because I may not be in a position to control the entire process. So there comes the thing that I have to be a little more cautious and avoid my exposure. And when it comes down to actually addressing to the issue of PM 2.5 across the T's, districts, state, then we have to be more focused on the type of sources which trying to put forward. So starting from that, what is our shift towards cleaner energy? What is our shift to utilizing the public transport rather than using our own vehicles? What is our shift to going for a concept of dynamic carpooling? What is our shift of having barren wall and trying to move towards a green wall? What is our shift to having small water bodies? What is our shift of having roadside plantation? What is our shift of translating the entire surface runoff into a groundwater recharge? What is our shift of utilizing local materials, natural materials for building construction? What is our shift for having roof, having lot of plantation, and we talk about a cool roof? So these are all things, somebody at a bigger level, like not every government should do, but there are things which the individuals can also do. And the only thing is that we researchers need to quantitatively bring out the benefits and make these things. This is how you can personally get the benefit. I was really looking forward that can the researchers quantify and figure out a working strategy for the people to implement. Just take the small example that do we have a discrete composting plant for a small society of, let's say, 400 people? Now, if I talk about Ahmedabad as a city, the population is around 80. There are so many societies which are there. I was just wondering whether our municipal corporation can actually, take up some 5 localities, 5 societies, and they say that we are not going to take your organic waste, but we will help you to manage your organic waste and make compost. And maybe they experiment it for, let's say, 5 months, 6 months, and bring out the success story. And then say that this is the compost which we have made. Now, if these 5 localities can make compost and green their spaces, why not 500 other societies can do the same? Because typically what is happening, this organic waste is going to landfills. And in landfills, when there is a degeneration of this organic waste, it is leading to the generation of methane, which is another greenhouse gas. And then we have the burning of the methane, and then we have the increase in the temperature. And then we cry for if methane is going up, and then the CO2 levels and the temperature is going up. So the problem has to be fixed at a root level. That is how we would like to see. So not that things can change in a day, but definitely some baby steps have to be taken. And some people, if they start this process, my gut feeling says that then there will be a domino effect. You will have 1 becoming 2, 2 becoming 4, 4 becoming 16, 16 becoming 256, and the story goes on for lakhs and millions and crores and so on. And that is how, if I see the larger perspective outlined by our Honorable Prime Minister of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, then at least one thing what we are seeing is that the people have started being sensitive. Now we have to take the sensitive people to the next level and incorporate all these things so that we breathe a good quality of air. I mean, I would really, want that this number of the reduction in the lifespan of an average Indian, that number of years should really shrink, and how nice it would be that it tends to zero. So, I mean, of course, that is a distant dream, but I want this number to be very, very small. So all these efforts, definitely, we all need to put research outline to be, the working outline to be brought out by the researchers. Things should be going to our research papers, and research papers should be going to the municipal corporation, and then they would try to implement. And of course, municipal corporation should also take some active lead so that, they adopt few localities. How nice it would be that if this podcast actually, is being heard by my municipal corporator, and he takes up that, okay, including the society where I reside, he decides that, okay, now we will take these 5 model societies and we'll try to, make them manage their organic waste, and at least we'll solve this small delta problem, and then we integrate it to the entire city. So there are many solutions which we need to actually outline. In fact, if we see the National Clean Air Program, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, that document has already outlined 42 important points. I mean, we should pick up some points which we can do at an individual level. And now it is very interesting, the green credit mechanism, the green credit program is intensifying the efforts which the individuals and the societies and group of people are putting. So it is actually linked with that monetary benefits also. So that's how the story goes on.
Right, Dr. Kandya. I wish we could have extra time, and I was very much into the zone of listening to you, and it's like a fairy song that was going on, and I'm sure this collective effort with the help of government policies, schemes, individual approach, but needs to be collaborated with the corporate sectors as well. Like municipalities also is going to be one of the major stakeholders in curbing these air pollution challenges in countries like India. And yes, the message is clear, I think, from your side, that the researchers needs to be more problem oriented, and they should think about the real challenges that is lying ahead of us in the next 10 or 15 years especially. So that's a great message. I think the scholars working in this domain, I'm sure Dr. Kandya would like to listen to you over and over again, and I'm very hopeful that we will meet very soon again in form of any conferences or workshops or any invitations from our side or your side, and we will then talk without any time limit for sure, and we will just remove our watches. It was pleasure. It was pleasure, Dr. Kandya. I mean, that's something that that made my Sunday for sure, and I'm sure our audiences would also had a pleasure to listen to you, and it's a great feeling for us. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. It was lovely. Let's be in touch. Yes. Okay. Yeah.